Welcome back. Legislators from the National Assembly have faulted a proposal in the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023, where Treasury wants Parliament to give it room to breach public debt threshold and explain the cause to Parliament. The bill, which is currently in its second reading stage, also proposes that the advisory role of a public debt management office be extended by Treasury to Parliament as well. In its report, the Public Debt and Privatization Committee, led by its Vice Chair, Makali Mulu, rejected the two proposals, asserting Parliament's exclusive mandate in discharging those roles. Those supporting the proposals have argued that Kenya should change from having an absolute figure as the debt limit to a 55% ratio of the gross domestic product. A debate on the bill is set to resume next Tuesday.
What this second part is saying is, honorable members, as Parliament, we have been asked or been coerced to allow our power be exercised by Treasury. What they are saying is, we allow the CS Treasury to breach the law, and then he can come to explain to us.
If you allow me to speak to the second objective of this bill, which is to migrate us from the absolute figure of a debt ceiling that we have been using in terms of measuring our debt carrying capacity to a threshold, which is popularly or otherwise known as a debt anchor. And the proposal for an economy like ours would be a debt anchor of about 55%, and that is what this bill is proposing, a debt anchor of 55%, plus or minus 5%.
What really made me a bit unhappy was where there was a proposal that the Cabinet Secretary would just make a report to Parliament, not even seeking post facto approval, just making a report. But Mr. Speaker, even as we move to GDP, we need to be clear as a country on how do we measure the GDP of this country. I think it is controversial, and if we are going to peg our debt to GDP, then we need to have harmony and agreement on the same.
There's need to manage our debt depending on our carrying capacity. And given that we are going the IMF way and World Bank way, the so-called Bretton Woods institutions, then it is important that we regulate our borrowing depending on our carrying capacity, and that's why a threshold of 55% debt anchor is being proposed.
The challenge we have, honorable members, by the time we were interacting with Treasury, our net present value was 60%, which already means we have already breached. We are above the 55. As I'm talking to you now, and you had the chair budget explain, we are at 62.5%. So the question in the committee we have been asking ourselves is, do we legislate when we already know that we have breached this position?
There are only two options to reduce this 62% to 55 to 60%. You either reduce the borrowing or grow the GDP. So, and because we're not increasing borrowing, then you certainly have to grow the GDP. Now, this growth in GDP will actually mean that we are creating more jobs, that we are collecting more revenues.